All right, so Düsseldorf is an A location, and we mentioned earlier people shouldn't maybe invest in the A location, so maybe the suburbs or other surrounding areas. But aside from Düsseldorf and the other 7 A locations, what are other exciting real estate locations in Germany right now?
Yes, I mean one of our main focus is the area around Munich, so we call it the S-Bahn region of Munich, where we also had an acquisition in last year, where we right now are developing this area with the city together, and therefore I think we will start with the construction this year, so in 2023. There are some major steps to be done right now, and we are in a good time schedule with this. So this will be actually a mix between classic residential living and elderly living. So we have 2 or more generations living under one roof. I think this is it will be a great project. The other project, what we are right now having in our due diligence or like in the acquisition phase already is in Ravensburg. Ravensburg is a location close to the Lake Constance, so also a B location with a high purchasing power and a lot of companies there. It's an interesting city for students. So these are all factors which are positive in our thoughts. So therefore we will build student living or living for young professionals, not only for students, but people starting with their work and like beginning or having the entrance in their career. So they're maybe not buying a penthouse or whatever, so we provide living space there for young professionals.
Your business is in Munich, you develop some in Munich, some projects, but not all of them. And the very common request we have from people is that if they're in Munich or if they're in any city, they want to invest in this city only because then they have some access to it or whatever. But I feel people are severely limiting themselves if they only look in their surrounding areas. It would be perfect if you can buy a property just around the corner, but that's probably not gonna happen. So how do you feel about this? Because you develop all around Germany.
Yes, I mean, that's a good point. Of course, there are a lot of developers where their focus or their business model is to seek for properties around the corner. It might happen. Of course, most of the time you're limited in the space. So our focus is a little bit different. We are not particularly focusing on one area, but we are focusing on the business model of the project, not only of the business model as from FiveRocks, because we are developers, so we need to develop something, and therefore this is our main business to develop, and therefore we have certain criteria what we look for, and if these criteria are only fulfilled in Ravensburg or in Frankfurt or whatever, then we will start a project there and not only around the corner. So this is basically how we are seeking for new projects.
So you need 2 things to come together: the right property for the right location, which maybe wouldn't work in a different location then.
Correct. You can sum it up like this. And yes, I mean, the property or the project has to work in the end. So not only from construction side, but how to operate it. Who is your target, or like the target client? Is it maybe institutionals? Is it private clients and whatever? So of course there are several factors, but one of the main factors right now, also in the situation what we are living in, we definitely focus on the business model of the building.
Michael, Tobias just revealed his secret locations that he thinks are good going forward. What are your perfect locations?
I mean, I agree with Tobias, of course. I mean, we have our clear strategy and the clear markets that we have defined. So we operate in these markets. Generally, we are looking for very good B cities and the suburban areas of metropolitan cities, so the big 7. And that's where we operate in. And clearly, we look for a lot of other factors that we want to see in a project. We go through a very deep due diligence before we acquire anything. And so, yeah, there are a lot of factors that we look at and that all have to come together for it to be a good project.
I think this is what people might not realize, that it's not just about building any type of property in a location and you have to choose the location only, but you actually have to choose the right property for this specific location in order to work.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, we have this project that Tobias just mentioned, which will be targeting students, so younger people. That is, of course, a completely different location than what we have with our other property in Schwabhausen, where we mostly target older people. The markets are completely different, and of course, the product has to fit the right demand of the market. And so this is definitely a lot of consideration that goes into that. You have to look at the market from a socio-economic perspective, but there are also other factors that people might not think about. I mean, you may have areas where the ground is not so easy to build on. You might have water areas, also weather is sometimes different in Düsseldorf than in Munich. And so there are always things that you have to look at, and each site also may have different challenges, and so you have to take all these aspects and into consideration, and then make an assessment based on all of these factors. So it's not just the location or the market, but it's also small things, details of the project, and also always the client that you look at.
Both the properties that you're currently developing in Mönchengladbach and Willich, they're just a couple of minutes away from each other, both very close to Düsseldorf, but they're also completely different, right? In Mönchengladbach it's residential and commercial, Willich is residential only.
Yes, you're correct on that. And not only is it different from what we are building in terms of commercial and residential, but also the residential markets, although it's just 20 minutes away from each other, these two sites are completely different. So in Willich you have another clientele that is buying in this specific market, and in Mönchengladbach we are in the city center. So you also, and very close, by the way, also to the central train station and the big shopping street. So you target a different kind of client that will later live in this apartment or buy it as an investor. And although it's just 20 minutes away, the micro location is completely different. And I think this is a very good example that you have to take a lot of factors into consideration.